Deep within the familiar ecosystem of the British backyard shed, our long sleeping specimen remains, the Vespa PX200, now known as RIP, continues its slow emergence from a 20-year slumber. The environment has not changed, the damp air still stings. The shadows still guard their secrets, but today marks a new stage in the Vespa's resurrection. For 2 decades, RIP lay dormant beneath a brittle tarpaulin. 20 years of Scottish moisture whispered decay into its bones, while the tarp trapped the damp in a grim, self-contained greenhouse. It was an environment perfectly engineered for ruin, yet somehow the Vespa has endured. The investigation began at the front. Removing the horn cover exposed the nerve centre, a chaotic junction of wires and frame. Each connection was separated. Since leaving the factory at the turn of the millennium, RIP has outlived governments, trends, and yet another British Prime Minister. Empires rise and fall, but the Vespa remains, and so does the corrosion. Removing the ignition was pretty straightforward, once I found out that you had to push a little pin up inside the barrel. Despite the rust, despite the neglect, a fragile hope has lingered. After 20 years of slumber, perhaps RIP will rise again. Perhaps a long sleep has preserved more than it destroyed. Perhaps this modern day classic will get its second chance. But to free the upper cabling, a ritual had to be performed. The handlebars detached completely, allowing the wiring to be coaxed through a series of tiny, unforgiving apertures. Only after a prolonged struggle did the design reveal its secret, a single, hidden angle of escape. With the handlebars finally defeated, the dismantling accelerated. Throughout his entire existence, RIP has only known one human, one owner of its entire mechanical fate. From the day it rolled out of the factory to the moment it vanished beneath a tarpaulin, this machine lived a life of absolute loyalty. No fleet of owners, no parade of riders, just one person, and then 20 years of silence. The stage was finally becoming set for the final evacuation of the central nervous system. In the natural world, names carry power, and so I christened the dormant Vespa Rip. Not for death, but for Rip Van Winkle. This is a machine that slept through decades, missing entire eras of human life. A scooter that closed its eyes one century and opened them in another. The toolbox was evicted from the leg shields. The stage was now firmly set for that final evacuation of the 26-year-old loom. Under the tank cavity, a space once reserved for fuel and Italian ambition, we uncover something unexpected. A mouse house. A luxury residence built from stolen insulation, garden fluff, and what looks suspiciously like the remains of a crisp packet. While Rip slept for 20 years, this wee architect moved in, paid no rent, and enjoyed full access to a warm, dry penthouse with excellent security. As I lift the nest out, one thing becomes clear. Rip didn't just hibernate, he hosted a tenant. With the structural void exposed, the purge began. The wire loom, the remaining part of the loom, had to be removed. Rot had made delicacy unnecessary. No draw cables needed, no finesse, only a brutal extraction of copper and plastic from a dying shell. And with a final desperate pull, it yielded. The old loom collapsed onto the floor like a pile of deeply offended spaghetti. The chassis was now empty. Vital signs, zero. Under the tank cavity, we find a hole of catastrophic proportions. Now, there's no way the mouse ate all this, but judging by the size of its wee luxury nest, I'm not ruling out that it definitely tried. But Rip is resisting. Accustomed to the darkness of under the tarp, it's fighting resurrection. A single bolt has fused itself to the chassis, choosing death by oxidization over the indignity of restoration. It just would not move. It would not yield. It had become the final guardian of the exhaust, and it absolutely refused to let go. First we loosen off the header bolt, with the stupidity of thinking that it would just drop off. How wrong was I? With the bolt refusing all negotiation, diplomacy collapsed. I reached for the most ancient tools in the human arsenal, a chisel and a lump hammer. What follows was not a mechanical work, but a grim prehistoric ritual. Each strike reverberated through the shed, steel on rust, echoing like distant thunder. The exhaust was not removed, it was executed, severed from the host in a series of brutal and uncompromising blows. People in the comment sections have been suggesting doing media blasting and powder coating for the running gear. An optimistic plan, but as the frame's condition becomes clear, a chilling realisation has emerged. By the end of this project, Rip might become Trigger's broom of the Vespa world. The handle replaced, the brush replaced, and the question remains, is it still the same scooter? As the amputated exhaust fell away, the truth emerged. The fragile hope that the steel had somehow endured evaporated instantly. Fe2O3, iron oxide, a silent predator that had eaten far too deep. The parasite had been feeding for years, and now its devastation was laid bare. Yet, even in the face of devastation, I refused to surrender. Rip had slept for 20 years. It deserved its chance. Machines, like men, can outlive their failures, and sometimes resurrection is simply a matter of will. Victory, in its nature, is often a cruel illusion. The removal of the exhaust revealed a vast, gaping void where structural steel once stood. Liberation had delivered truth, and the truth was catastrophic. The full horror of 20 years under the tarp have revealed itself. No triumph, no certainty, only the quiet, heavy truth of what lay ahead. A single question settled into the air. Had I done the right thing? or had I willingly invited a financial and psychological parasite into my life?